So the CW released another trailer for Crisis on Infinite Earths. This is basically a previous trailer which was like 30 seconds long, now expanded to a minute and a half. And I gotta say, this trailer has gotta be my favorite trailer they've released so far. And while they did release this trailer yesterday, I didn't really get the chance to break it down until today, and it works out because I didn't really have a video, even an idea for today anyway. So with that in mind, let's watch the trailer and then I'll break it down.
There was no hope for this world. No hope. No hope. It's time for me to die.
There's things we have to accept no matter how much it hurts.
I wish I was hopeful, like you.
Baby, I don't want to say goodbye.
My mistakes outweigh all the good I've ever done.
Find your mother. Tell her how much I love her.
The end of the world is licking at our heels! The end of the world!
They're gone.
And we're next. Every second, another Earth dies.
This threat brings the annihilation of all life.
Battle not with monsters, lest you become a monster. Even in the darkest times, hope is the light that lifts us out of darkness.
Let's go save the universe.
Keep riding the lightning.
Everyone has a part to play.
The multiverse needs you!
Tick-tock, people!
Oliver! It's not time!
So the trailer begins with an establishing shot of National City and of Earth 38, probably right before the crisis begins, and I'm guessing at the beginning of the first episode, but we hear a voiceover from Bruce Wayne, who, once we hear him later, I gotta say, I'll talk about him a little bit more, and everything will be very positive. For now, though, we hear him say that there was no more hope for this world. This could be one or two things. One, he knew about the crisis and know that it's inevitable, so there's no more hope, or what's more likely, the Kingdom Come universe, there was no hope left. In the comics, the Kingdom Come universe is very different from the regular universe. It's a universe very divided. Their heroes are divided. There was even a point where Superman had to, I'm pretty sure it was kill Captain Marvel, now known as Shazam, and especially in Bruce Wayne's eyes, there definitely would be no hope for that world left, which is really, really exciting to me. The Kingdom Come universe is definitely a very interesting universe, and seeing Bruce Wayne, played by Kevin Conroy, who I think is very well cast for that version of Bruce Wayne, the older, broken version of Bruce Wayne, but also for him to have screen time with Brandon Routh's Superman. That's something I'm definitely very excited for. But again, I have a little bit more to talk about Bruce Wayne from later when we hear him and see him again. So we see a shot of the Batsuit, which, again, does look like the Earth 1 Batsuit, but it's possible that Earth 1 and the Kingdom Come universe have the same Batsuit. But we then see a shot of somebody, it seems like it's a woman because of his high heels, in a black suit stepping on what seems like a flooded area. Now, this could be a Batwoman, but I think it may be Huntress. Huntress, who's appearing in the crossover from the Birds of Prey TV show. Not the Huntress from the Arrowverse, but from Birds of Prey, has not been in any of the promotional material, no posters, no images, not even like set photos, or I guess there were some like selfie set photos from the actress, but none in her or with her in costume or in any scenes. And also, obviously, she hasn't been in any of the trailers, so who knows, maybe this is Huntress, and this is the first time we're seeing her in a trailer. But I'm guessing, since the beginning of the trailer seems to focus a lot on Batman and Bruce Wayne, this is probably Batwoman. After the trailer focuses on Batman for like 7 seconds, it shifts to focusing on the emotional side of the crisis. First of all, you have Barry and Iris talking. Since the crisis is here, they're talking about the fact that Barry has to die, or it seems like he won't die, but they don't know that, so they think that Barry's going to die, so that's what they're talking about. There's also a talk between Kate and Kara. Kate seems like she's very, very scared because she's powerless and the world's going to end, the multiverse is going to end, so obviously that would be very scary, which I'm hoping it develops her, or I'm hoping it humanizes her, makes her more three-dimensional. There's also Sarah talking about something. It seems like she is talking about Oliver's death, because she and Oliver used to be pretty close, and they still are at this point. So his death definitely would affect her, but also there doesn't seem to be anything on the legends that would affect her at all. So her saying that we have to accept things probably Oliver's death. But that side of the crisis, next to the obviously the epicness of what the crisis looks like it's going to be, the emotional side is definitely something I'm very excited for, especially when it comes to Oliver's death, which I'm hoping it's the saddest death in the Arrowverse ever, and at this point there's really no way that it won't. So then we see something very, very interesting. In a previous trailer, we saw this shot, this recreation of a very iconic cover of the death of Superman, with Superman's torn up cape blowing in the wind, this battle-damaged cape. Now, I definitely expected this to be either Tom Welling Superman, Brendan Routh Superman, or a third Superman, like from an alternate universe. I never expected it to be Tyler Hoechlin's. Main reason because we know he can't die because he has a TV show coming up, but also this cape doesn't fit him. He has a leathery cape. This one is more cloth based, and also he doesn't have the yellow logo on the back of his cape. Now that we see it is the Earth 38 version of Superman, or at least a Superman played by Tyler Hoechlin, it's very interesting to me. This means that either there's an alternate universe where Superman yet again looks like Tyler Hoechlin, which again it brings up the question, why do the other two Superman look different? But also this means that either that or this is from Earth 38, and something that happened in the timeline is that during the war between Lex Luthor and Superman, Lex Luthor either seemingly killed Superman or did, and just like the comics, he came back to life. Either way, it does seem like this recreation of the death of Superman is not by the hands of Doomsday, it is by the hands of Lex Luthor, unless in this universe Lex Luthor created Doomsday. Now the problem with this being in the Earth 38 timeline is that this, a huge event that should be mentioned all the time, was never once mentioned, which I guess they could say maybe it's a retcon, or maybe it's just something they never mentioned, like how Batman exists. They never mentioned that until Arrow Season 7, or actually Arrow Season 6, with Bruce Wayne, but that's different. They don't really need to mention Batman because he's not connected to any of these characters. Superman dying should have been mentioned, especially when Lex Luthor appeared or when Superman appeared. So this brings up the question, is this from Earth 38 or from an alternate timeline or an alternate universe? Honestly, I don't know. I think it'd be really cool if it is from Earth 38, because while it's never been mentioned, it definitely, I think, would fit the timeline, as there was like a 5-year war between Lex Luthor and Superman, and during those 5 years, who's to say Lex Luthor didn't kill Superman and Superman came back from the dead? Again, that definitely would be mentioned, but this news report is definitely, it brings up a lot of speculation, but it definitely confirms that it was Tyler Hoechlin's version of Superman that died at some point in the timeline or from an alternate universe. So we see a point of the trailer where this guy, who apparently is played by Will Wheaton, who's a famous actor. Now, I've never really seen him anything, but I definitely have heard of him, and it's possible he's playing an actual DC character, but more likely he's just playing this very paranoid conspiracy theorist who just happens to be right about the end of the world. But there is something to say that the end of the world is nigh. Could be a reference to Watchmen, which is another DC property, which they use the characters of Earth 4, which Earth 4 was later brought into the main DC universe with Crisis on Infinite Earths, but they used those characters, changed them a bit, and made them the Watchmen. That included The Question, Blue Beetle, and Captain Atom, and more. But there's a famous panel from Watchmen that says the end of the world is nigh, and I think this might be a reference to that, which again is a DC property that at least has a little bit connection, not much, but a little bit of a connection to Crisis on Infinite Earths. So we see an expansion, like this is the third time we see an expansion on this scene where Supergirl sees Argo being destroyed. This time we actually see the antimatter wave, which looks great. It really looks like they upped the budget for this crisis, which is evident, and there's no way they wouldn't, but I think they really pulled off the antimatter wave, which I think looks better than it did in Arrow Season 8 in that first episode, and maybe even better than The Flash Season 6. This just looks higher budget. It looks really cool, and I think the scene where Brainy says, "We're next," after Supergirl says they're all destroyed or something like that, that was legitimately a little bit chilling, and it seems like a very intense scene. Speaking of Brainiac 5, there's a question of how he can exist like this. He existed in 1,000 years in the future. He came back to the present day, and yet it seems like his world is gonna die. It does not seem like the Legion of Superheroes in Earth 38 will ever exist. So how does he exist? Well, this is brought up by another shot we see like a couple seconds later of Jonah Hex, who doesn't exist in the present day, and this is the first time we're seeing Jonah Hex in one of these trailers, which is really cool. He's definitely a very cool character, but the question is, how how is this character appearing? Because Jonah Hex doesn't exist in the present day, and just the existence of Jonah Hex in this crossover confirms one of two things. One, there will be some time travel involved, which means maybe the Legion of Superheroes can appear, or maybe they're doing what they did in the original Crisis, where the Crisis happened simultaneously all across the timeline, which could explain why things happen in the future on certain Earth, even though those Earths are going to be destroyed by the Crisis, and could also explain how Jonah Hex can appear, even though he doesn't exist in the present day. But one other thing from Jonah Hex is it doesn't seem like his face is disfigured at all, like it is in Legends of Tomorrow, and it is typically with the character. So maybe this is a Jonah Hex from before that happened to him, if he wasn't born with that or something like that, which is a shame, because that disfigurement he has is definitely a part of his character, and it definitely, I think, makes him look cool. It makes him look different, and it's kind of a shame they didn't put him in that, or didn't put that on him in this crossover. But maybe it's like some weird angle here that I can't see it or something, but it does not seem like he has that disfigurement on his face. So we see a better look at the shadow demons, as we saw in a previous trailer. Here, they don't look as blue. Like in a previous trailer, it seemed like they had some blue elements to them, which the blue and black combined with the shadow powers really reminded me of Obsidian, but it doesn't seem like that's the case here. It seems like they're just black, which is fine, but they definitely kind of look like the Dementors from the Harry Potter universe. Either way, I definitely think they look creepy enough to be the cannon fodder of this crossover, and I definitely think that they pulled them off very well. So we see this shot of the child of Clark Kent and Lois Lane again. Now, a sneak peek confirmed two things about this child. One, it is a boy, and two, his name is Jonathan, which was the obvious thing going in literally before the sneak peek came out in a previous trailer breakdown. I just straight up called him John, because it was pretty obvious that would be his name, since John Kent is the most famous child of Clark Kent and Lois Lane, and the current one in the comics, and it seems like in the upcoming Lois and Clark TV show, or Superman and Lois, that he will have a very, very big focus. But for now, the sneak peek confirms that his name is Jonathan and that he is a boy, and we're definitely going to be seeing him as Superboy in the future. One character they are really doing their best and trying to not have them in the trailers is the Antimatter. So far, we've seen him in one shot in a previous trailer where he's very far away and you can't really see him, and then here in a shadow. This scene could possibly be him coming out of his cage. There's a theory that Nash Wells was not talking to the Monitor in the ending of The Flash, Season 6, Episode 8, and all those other scenes from the other episodes. He was talking to the Antimatter, since the Monitor there said, "Bow down to me and submit to my will." It does not sound like the Monitor. That was definitely the Antimatter, and this shot of his shadow could definitely be the scene where he is released from that cage by Nash Wells, who would definitely, or is definitely going to become Pariah. But while we see this shot of the Antimatter, we get one of the best lines from the Crisis so far, and it's not exactly because it's a great line, it's because of who's saying it. So during this shot of the Antimatter, we hear Bruce Wayne, played by Kevin Conroy, saying, "Battle not with monsters." Then we see him himself saying, I'm paraphrasing here, but it's something like, "Lest you become a monster yourself." Now, while he was saying, "Battle not with monsters," and we couldn't actually see his face, it was such an incredible moment, because it just sounds like Batman from the DC animated universe, Batman from the Arkham games. Kevin Conroy has got to be the most beloved Bruce Wayne or Batman voice or actor ever, and his voice, especially when you can't actually see his face, is instantly recognizable as Batman. This is something that also happened recently with Supergirl Season 5, where Phil Lamar, the actor who played Jon Stewart in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, now plays Malefak. Whenever we see his face or his voice moving with his mouth, it doesn't really sound like Jon Stewart that much, because, I don't know, I instinctively don't think of other characters when I can see a character talking, but when we saw Malefak talking where we couldn't see his mouth moving, it didn't sound like Malefak, it just straight up sounded like Jon Stewart. And if that's true, this goes tenfold for Kevin Conroy, who's more recognizable as Bruce Wayne. It's a more iconic voice, but also he's playing Bruce Wayne again. So this line where he said, especially when he said, "Battle not with monsters," it just sounded straight out of Justice League and Justice League Unlimited and the Arkham games. And I would say Batman in the animated series, but that was a little bit before my time. But I definitely recognize that is what made him the iconic Bruce Wayne Wayne and Batman voice he is today, but I think we could say without a shadow of a doubt, with Kevin Conroy playing Batman now, he's easily the most Batman-sounding live-action and animated actor of all time, or, you know, in those mediums. But here, when he said Battle Not With Monsters, it just sounded so much like Batman, because it is. So we see a shot of Black Lightning powering some sort of machine. Now this machine could be the towers the Monitor puts over the multiverse to save those universes. In the sneak peek that confirmed that John Kent is Jonathan Kent, it also confirmed that the Monitor will be putting something called a quantum tower on each universe, one on Earth 38, which, as you could tell by the destruction of Earth 38, will not be successful. But maybe this one he puts on Earth 1 will be successful because of Black Lightning. It's possible that this is why specifically Black Lightning himself is being brought into the Crisis, is being brought into the Justice League of sorts, and why he will be very important. His ability, which I guess Flash could do too, but he's got more powerful lightning powers, and also he could control it better, and also he could just consistently do it over and over again. Maybe he is being brought in to charge the quantum tower and to power it up enough to save the universe, which will make Black Lightning one of the more important players when it comes to saving Earth 1 and maybe several other universes in the multiverse, but I doubt anything other than Earth 1 will survive. I gotta say, the CW has been absolutely knocking it out of the park with these trailers when it comes to the taglines. In a previous trailer, there was a tagline which said "Infinity Ends," which legitimately it's so cool, because that could be the alternate title to Crisis on Infinite Earths, because that's exactly what happens. It's oxymoronic, Infinity Ends, because infinity is endless, and yet it ends. And again, that's what happens in Crisis on Infinite Earths. There's an infinite amount of universes, and yet they're all destroyed except for 5. And here, it seems like that's what's going to happen, except all the universes are going to be destroyed, probably, except for 1 or 2 of them. However, this is maybe cooler, this tagline. It says, "Join the League and fight infinity." Now, obviously, this is cool because when it shows the League, it shows a Justice League behind it. I mean, you got Green Arrow, Superman, Martian Manhunter, 2 of which already founding members of the Justice League. You got Flash in the background there. You got Batman showing up. I mean, this is so exciting. And Mark Guggenheim said that they can't use the name Justice League, but maybe they're not, because I doubt if they can't use the name Justice League in the actual show, I doubt they could use it in marketing. So maybe DC just allowed them to name this team the League. So maybe in this crossover, by the end, like Nora West Allen called them in season 5, maybe this is going to be the formation of the League with Superman, the Flash, Supergirl, Batwoman, maybe Green Arrow, but he's probably going to be dead. I'm guessing also Martian Manhunter, and it's really, really exciting because this is the formation of the Justice League. This is the greatest live-action Justice League we have ever seen, which is not saying much, but it's still really, really exciting. And this, where it just confirms the Justice League, it says the League, which is so much more than we've ever gotten when it comes to them saying the Justice League, referring to this crossover team as the Justice League. It's really exciting. So there's a very interesting shot. So first of all, it looks really cool. You see the Justice League with Superman, Supergirl, the Atom, the 2 Green Arrows, and Batwoman all fighting shadow demons. It's a really cool shot. It looks pretty high budget. Before that, you hear Superman saying the multiverse needs you, which is a really cool line. But during this fight, it seems like the 2 Green Arrows are fighting each other. There's a shot, a very, very, very short shot of Green Arrow, Oliver Queen, trying to kick Mia or trying to take her down. It might be that in the actual crossover, when we see it, it's like a trick where he's kicking her, or about to, but then she dodges and he ends up kicking a shadow demon. But maybe because they're powerless, they can't really do much to shadow demons, maybe somebody takes over Mia and Green Arrow has to stop her from doing any damage, because it does seem like Mia and Green Arrow are actually fighting in this shot. So once the tagline ends and it says for infinity, behind that you see like a whole multitude of suns, and under that you see 2 different Jupiters, and I'm guessing the rest of the Jupiters are all being covered by the suns. You see a Saturn. This is obviously space, but obviously there's more than one of everything. So what this can be, I think, is a recreation of this pretty iconic now cover or picture from Crisis on Infinite Earths. We see all these other universes, all these other Earths. It does focus more on Earth, but it's a very similar similar visual to what we're seeing here with the suns. They're occupying the same space or just vibrating a different frequency, but to show them all together, they did all put them side by side instead of putting them all in the same spot, because then you couldn't really see any difference. But I'm guessing they're going to recreate that here, but I'm also guessing that this is not going to be a part of the crossover where these universes combine. What's going to happen probably is that this is going to be the beginning of the crossover where the Monitor explains to the audience using this visual of the multiverse, the actual multiverse, as well as the coming crisis. And while we don't see it yet, we're probably going to see that exact visual of all these Earths side by side, Earth 1, Earth 3, and so on and so forth. Obviously not Earth 2, because that one is destroyed, but all those other universes side by side like in the comic, and that's probably going to be right at the beginning with a narration explaining the multiverse and the crisis. So again, in a previous trailer, we heard Barry say Oliver in a way that sounded like he just saw Oliver die, but I don't think that's the case. We now see the shot of where that's from, and it seems like it's in that fight with the Shadow Demons where Oliver seems like he is fighting Mia. So Barry screaming Oliver could mean just Oliver seems like he's going to die, or maybe, like we see in a previous trailer, Oliver just refuses to leave Earth until it's completely evacuated, and he is still fighting the Shadow Demons, and Barry has to scream something like this to get him out of there, but it does not seem like this is going to be at the death of Oliver Queen, which is what we previously assumed. So anyway, that's it for my trailer breakdown for what I think is the best trailer we've gotten so far, and probably will ever get for Crisis on Infinite Earths. However, I'm assuming we're also going to get a big trailer for the last two parts during the break between part 3 and 4 and 5. But anyway, let me know your thoughts about this trailer and my trailer breakdown, and let me know your thoughts about everything I talked about in this video. And if you like this video, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.